Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. I'm your host, Chris, and today we are talking about newly released movie, The Adam Project, which is starring Ryan Reynolds, accompanied with Zoe Saldana and Mark Ruffalo. It's a fantastic film, and it is a ton of fun, so I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it already. But I'm going to talk about why I enjoyed this film so much, and give you an idea whether or not you'd like to watch it as well. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our daily updates. We're talking major movie news for your favorite TV shows and big movies coming out very soon this year, like Multiverse of Madness and many others. So turn on that notification bell and don't miss out. I'm trying to come up with a formula for how I want to review movies. Obviously, there's a lot of cool movies that come out there, and when I do reviews, I usually just get on camera and talk about them for a little bit. I'd like to do it with a little bit more of a specific direction. What am I looking for? What are you guys looking for? So I'm gonna try that today, but I also want you guys to comment down below. Let me know what it is you guys are interested in hearing. What of my opinions? Do you want to hear about the acting? Do you want to hear about the story, the effects? Where specifically? But for today, I've got this little formula that I built up, so let's go through that. The first thing I want to talk about is the movie itself, and by that I mean the idea. Is it anything even worth hearing? Is it new? Is it a fresh idea? And I'll say it is somewhat fresh of an idea. It covers a lot of time travel. It has a different look on time travel. In fact, there's even kind of like a little jab at Marvel that Ryan Reynolds throws in there when he says, "Oh my gosh, is this the multiverse?" And Ryan Reynolds looks at himself and says, "Oh my gosh, we watch too much TV." It's a hilarious joke, and it definitely does kind of play on itself with the idea that time travel isn't anything new. There's Back to the Future references and all sorts of oh my gosh, time travel movie again references to make it feel a little bit like a more fresh idea. They're not pretending like they've invented time travel movies. So out of the scale of how fresh is this film, I'd put it somewhere out of like maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's not an original idea, it's time travel. However, it does take a really fun idea of time travel and tells a really, really cool story that feels fast-paced. And that's the next section I want to talk about, the story. Is the story any good? And honestly, the story for me was probably a really good 8 out of 10. The story being, does it make sense? Is it cohesive? Does it have a coordination from beginning to end? Does it feel like you've watched something from the start and then at the end you're satisfied with everything that it's given to you, from information to overall understanding? It's a very simple movie to follow. Time travel can always be difficult to explain, but I think they do a fantastic job in this movie, giving you all the answers to the questions you might come up with, and then closing it out so that you feel satisfied. That's one thing coming from movies that I don't really like, is when the movie's over and I don't feel like I was satisfied, like I was given enough closing information or total information, like something was missing out and they kind of cut a corner. This one does feel completely rounded. I get all the information I need, it ended strongly, and I finished the movie and I thought to myself, yeah, that's a good ending. Ending can be, and usually is, the hardest part. So a successful ending for me really does matter, and it gives me this satisfied feeling that this movie does give you. The next section I want to talk about, the acting. Did the characters play themselves? Did the actors play the characters? Did they all fit together on screen? Something I've come to learn about Ryan Reynolds is the movies mold around him. And that's 100% true. If you love Ryan Reynolds, you're going to love this movie, because it is Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds like he does in all movies. He has the ability to steal the comedy, to steal the character and make it his very own. And that's because he does act into his strong suits, which is this sarcastic comedy that is very cleverly grabbed with this wit, making all sorts of different funny references. And the child that played younger version of him, young Adam, also did a great job being a little Ryan Reynolds. He literally seemed like it was a younger version of himself, which is who he's playing, a younger version of the main character, Adam. He has the quick wit and the funny jokes. He even gets bullied because they say he has a big mouth. He makes all of these snarky comments. And that sounds a lot to me like Ryan Reynolds. Obviously, the including actors Mark Ruffalo, Zoe Saldana, they're not actually in the film as much as maybe you would have wanted them to be, but the moments that they are in the film are very, very powerful. The acting between Ryan Reynolds and Zoe is incredible. They have a very, very important emotional connection, and it's demonstrated on the screen, and both of them just really, really poured their own emotion into it, and it pours out through the acting, the characters, and the screen time that they shared. Then of course Mark Ruffalo, who I love, and I think he's a lot of fun, is Mark Ruffalo. He has the sense of being Mark Ruffalo. He plays kind of a nerdy scientist, which is really exactly what he does with Hulk Bruce Banner, he's kind of quiet enough to the side. But again, all of this is reflected on the film. They really held their own, they played their own roles. The characters who were in this movie really didn't come to me as a surprise when I saw that the acting was decent. There were no questions for me, oh my gosh, what is happening? So, I mean, that was a really no-brainer for me. How was the acting? How were the characters created? How was the complexity of the relationship between the characters? All of that played out extremely well. The next section, the effects. The effects were actually amazing, like very surprisingly. Netflix does a good job with the original series, but it was something different. The whole take on these time-traveling rocket ships and the flying through space, it was all very clean and smooth. It wasn't very cheesy. The way that when they killed the robots attacking them, they just kind of disappeared into the air. It was very, very well done. I didn't have any issues with the effects whatsoever, but to be fair, I'm not really one to be too bothered by effects. I don't look at CGI unless it's very clearly just terrible. So I'm gonna say for this movie and for the purpose of this movie, the effects were absolutely perfect. There wasn't no more or no less than we needed. The cinematography was gorgeous. The color scale that they used in the forest behind the house, you'll see it if you haven't seen the movie, you'll definitely appreciate how well they filmed the movie. And that is something important. That's something that a lot of people recently have been talking about. With the advances in technology and cinematography as a whole changing with every film and all the different techniques that are used, it was extremely well done, and I do appreciate that on a very, very high level. And finally, the emotion. For me, as a consumer, as a viewer of TV shows, of movies, the emotion and the connection that I get with it is the most important part. It's really what I take away from the film. There were definitely several moments throughout this film that I felt emotionally connected to the characters, that I took something away, that I pondered on my own life, how am I treating my family, and different lessons that are subliminally there. Obviously, it's an action sequence with some comedy and some time travel, but there's always a lesson to be learned. Everything is an opportunity to reflect on our own lives. How are we doing as individuals, and how can we better ourselves? And that's something that's so bizarre about movies and TV, because although they're created for entertainment, if you look at them in the right light, it really is a self-check, an opportunity to maybe think to myself, hey, I could do this better, and that's definitely demonstrated through the film. So overall, I think that this movie was a very enjoyable experience. I recommend everybody give it at least a watch, especially if you're a Ryan Reynolds fan. It's a no-brainer Ryan Reynolds movie, and it's a fun time through and through. I don't know what the future holds. If they're planning on making an Adam Project 2, there's definitely a way they could do that, but it's not necessarily required. I like the movie. It was a good one-off movie, and it's a lot of fun moving forward. So we'll have to wait and see, but definitely give it a watch and enjoy. Let me know what you thought about the movie if you have seen it down in the comment section below, and let me know what you thought about this review style or other categories you would rather I talk about. In this one, we talked about the actors, the story, the effects, the cinematography, the emotional connection, and if there's any other categories that you would more like to hear about, I'm always trying to get better here on the channel for you. So let me know in the comment section down below that as well. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.